Hey all, and welcome back for the finale of the HFC playthrough of Super Mario 64. It is time to head to the final world of the game, not including the world in which Bowser's inhabiting. I never really think of those as worlds, they're more of like assault courses, but This one is quite notorious, and just as a word of warning, if you have a fear of heights, maybe get someone to sit with you while you play this one, because, good lord, we're going up in the sky.
I hope you like bottomless pits, because there's a big bottomless pit right here.
Oh, man. I wonder how speedrunners feel about this one, because there's a lot of waiting around, even with, like, advanced movement and whatnot.
Really not as much waiting around as you think. They've got it down to a fine art of exactly where you need to run and jump and how you jump to get out of these particular areas. It was quite fascinating, watching the DS version. I think there's a little bit of difference in the DS version because I think some of the geometry is a bit smaller. So I think you're able to make certain sort of jumps and distances that you perhaps wouldn't have been able to make in the original. But basically these carpets are more of a suggestion than something that you actually have to ride.
Which is nice, because the thing with level set pieces like this is that it's a good introduction to the level the first time you play it. When you replay it, it just feels kind of tiring, because it's like, okay, I get it now, we're on a magic carpet. And it kind of gives me the same sort of vibes as like the opening from Starlight Carnival in Sonic Colors. It's like, when I first played Starlight Carnival the first time, it was like, this is really cool, look, we're running through space and there's all, like, the camera zooms out and you can see everything. Whereas nowadays it's like, oh, I guess we've got a minute of this.
That is so funny. Like, first of all, Flame being like, oh, I'm just on a magic carpet, how droll. And then he's like, wow, we're going through the vacuum of space and, you know, there's rainbows everywhere and we're not dying. So, could be better.
Well, I mean, like, it's a form over function kind of thing when the first, like, minute of the level is holding forward.
Nah, I get it.
Yeah, we get it, Flame. What you're saying is 7 out of 10, too many rainbows.
Yep, too many rainbows. Flame does not support the community.
It's not June anymore.
This is a realm you can only enter during Pride Month. Every other time, it's just like black and white.
Is there a Middle Eastern version of this game where the rainbow isn't there, though?
Oh, no. Thanks, Flame. Didn't mean to turn this into another part 5, but here we are.
We're not doing that.
Anyway, back onto the subject of speedrunning for a second. Shoutouts to Siglemic. I used to watch him do runs from time to time. I'm not entirely sure what he's doing now. Apparently he's doing something RuneScape related, but don't quote me on that.
Fair.
MMOs in general are like one of the parts of the gaming industry that I've just never dipped my toes into, because it's just the sort of thing that I look at that and compared to basically any other game I just think, this is someone else's thing, this isn't my thing.
No, I definitely get that. I know that back in the day I briefly tried RuneScape because all my friends were playing it and I'm just like, it is what it is, I'm not that bothered by it. But it's the same way I feel about, like, the FIFAs and the Call of Duties of this world. It's like, I just don't care.
Never mind, the Reddit post that I read to get that information is from 8 years ago.
Whoop.
Oh, so it might be something else entirely by now.
I went over to Sig's Twitch channel and there's nothing in his video description. There's no videos on there, so he is just a ghost.
It just happens sometimes. Sometimes people just move on to bigger and better things. Meanwhile, hope you guys are liking our videos lately.
We will never end. I will take this shit to the grave. I will take all of you down with me.
Oh, God. Look, I don't know if you can tell, there comes a point where I stop kind of caring about the automated sections and just let Mario sort of stand there until I'm high enough to do the jump.
Just tuck me in, let me ride.
Now, I could probably make that jump, but I'm also scared.
You probably could, but also if I recall correctly, it needs to keep going up, so you need the carpet to still be here.
Oh yeah, that is a point, because like if you step off of the carpet, we already saw it sort of flickering out of existence a few times as I've been like working my way around the obstacles. It will disappear, and if that happens, you will need to either go back to the very start of the rainbow, or you'll have to just bluff your way up with very clever jumps.
Alternate universe Flame be like, okay, I'm just going to attempt the Whiffle Stomp skip here, and then we move into the didgeridoo, and there you go, all the stars are mine.
I did a few things after a lot of resets here just to keep things moving, but like if it felt too much like cheating, then I was like, nah. I'm not skilled enough to do this myself, so I'll just roll with it.
I've tried a few skips, like in Ocarina of Time and here, mostly with, Mexi's prompting and whatnot. The only skip I've ever been able to pull off is the BLJ, the backwards long jump.
Ah.
Yeah, that's the one that you can use to get up with, I think, only 50 stars to get up to the room that you need for that one. So if you're trying to do just like a quick occasional run, that's what we did in the HFC Super Nintendo Thon run. We just did the 50 stars and then bluffed our way up, so you can do that.
Hell yeah.
But also it's like, there's a lot of other game you can enjoy here, so you don't necessarily need to either.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, coins amassed in a maze. They just kind of ran out of interest mission tiles at this point.
To be fair, there's only so many ways you can say, go get 8 red coins. It's like they're trying to be creative, and we're on the tail end of the game now.
I know. I'm just on the tail end of my commentary, and I just wanted to fire back at someone else to make myself seem better.
I thought I was on the tail end of my commentary, then we kept going for another 10 years.
Oh my god.
But yes, this section here is like, this more so than the magic carpet really for me. This is the part I think of, and it's just whenever I see this kind of like slightly side cut, I don't know what the term for this kind of layout is, but when I see a level area like this in anything, I just think, oh yeah, that's the part from Rainbow Ride.
It makes me think of a custom level in Smash Bros.
Oh, possibly, yeah. Although I will say I don't play Smash often, but when I do much prefer the more simple like Omega stages where there's no awkward sections where you can just kind of get stuck with nothing happening for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, if I'm going to lose, I want it to be on a flat plane, thank you very much.
I would rather just lose than get kicked into the same wall over and over. It's less insulting that way.
You know you love it.
I know that I have one strategy, which is the Bowser side, and if you have any counter to that whatsoever, I have lost. It does make me laugh, like when we did our tournament a few years ago, like I won a sudden death against Spar because he was giving me far too much credit and expecting me to do something smart instead.
I'm just like, no, side B on Bowser. Well, it's the side smash on Bowser, isn't it?
It's muscle memory. I don't know what buttons it is. I just know how to do the Bowser side.
He and Bowser are one, okay? You can't have one without the other.
It's fair.
Like, is that a first sonar? I don't know if there's a term for like a scale sonar.
You would be a scaly Flame.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's more or less embarrassing.
It ain't gay if it's Bowser.
It's true, he's Pesco.
God.
Oh. I'm just gonna go hide in a corner now.
That one wasn't even for LP funsies. I legit took psychic damage there.
I'm good at that.
You sure are, Flame.
It's fine, I haven't even gone into the, like, facts about how turtle genitalia works either, so...
Let's just leave that one there. I don't think we need scientifically accurate turtles.
What did I say about politics, Flame?
Not to get political, but Bowser has a big dick. Okay.
God damn it. Anyway, Richie, how did you fare back in the day on Rainbow Ride? Just to change the topic to literally anything else.
I do seem to recall having trouble with it, but obviously, lots of empty pits. does tend to pose a challenge, and also obviously particularly in the DS version where movement was maybe not quite as solid, I suppose, as it perhaps was in the the original 64 version, because you know, you're either using a D-pad or you're using the stylus to run. Remember that, guys?
We haven't even talked about that yet, but yes, the DS version had optional touch controls. Not only does it have touch controls, but you can use the stylus that you get with the DS, or with early models of the DS, they also gave this optional thumb strap thing that it would function as a stylus that you just strap your thumb into it and just rub the bit of plastic on the screen. I never liked it. I found it really awkward and really uncomfortable, and it's just not... It's not ideal for any game, really, let alone a platform where you're trying to be careful.
Yeah.
But that's also another thing about how the movement works in 64DS, because this game, a big feature of the N64 was that it had analog controls. So if you tap the stick slightly, Mario walks slowly. If you properly push it, Mario will run. The DS doesn't have that because it just has the D-pad. So instead, it has a run button. If you want Mario to go faster, you have to hold the run button down, and it's nowhere near as intuitive as the N64 version is.
Well, you could just play it on a 3DS and use the slide pad.
But it doesn't work like that, though, because the slide pad, even though it feels slightly smoother to use, it's still just mapping that pad to the 8 directions. So technically it is the same movement, and it has the same shortcomings because of that.
Well, fuck me, I guess.
But that is just something that I do feel it's kind of unfortunate. We touched on it back when we were in Hazy Maze Cave, but I feel if they wanted Mario 64 to be a handheld showpiece, it would have done so much better on the 3DS than the DS.
Agreed. But then equally, I think we can all totally understand why they chose it to be their set piece for the DS.
Yeah, and they weren't quite in their era of just re-release everything on everything at arbitrary points yet. So, like, I do feel like that's kind of an interesting thing, the fact that when they brought Mario 64 over to the Switch, it was just a direct lift of the N64 one. They didn't try to like mix in any parts from the DS one, because like the attitude towards re-releases has changed in recent times.
Yes.
It's like nowadays people just want the game. Like they're not too fussed about whether it's like an enhanced version or not. It's just, I want to play Mario 64 on this new piece of hardware I have, and so I will play Mario 64 on this new piece of hardware I have. Whereas back when the DS version came out, I feel like there was this kind of like quiet aversion to just doing direct ports. It's like anytime they would re-release a game, they would at least try to make it somewhat distinct and have its own identity separate from the original.
Well, yes, but also the thing that I'd sort of point out there is that really, outside of, say, you know, Fire Red, Leaf Green, and then Heart Gold, Soul Silver, there weren't really remakes of games that often in that era. Like, really, I could only think of like Super Mario 64 and the Pokemon games as being examples.
I feel like it's possibly because nowadays there's a bigger market for nostalgia.
Yes.
Like, what was, like, the big thing at the time in high-profile games was that they were showing off the new technology. It's like a promise of what's to come. We've got this exciting new thing going on. It's like, now you can play 3D games on a handheld, and this is huge, and we want to show off that we can do that. Whereas nowadays, it's like, there's different levels in the market. It's like, not everything is trying to be the big AAA release that's going to sell for full price and make millions. It's like, there's a middle market of people who just want a fun game. And so whether that fun game uses low poly graphics, whether that fun game uses pixel art, it doesn't really matter as long as what they're going for is executed well. And that's something that I am very grateful for, because it kind of does give us much more variety in new games.
That said, Shadow Generations is looking fucking fire.
Yeah, but even then, that's like, we fucking love Sonic doing cool things with its characters, so that's kind of where it attracts me, and the fact it's Shadow in general.
Oh, God.
Look, he's the coolest, okay?
Just because he says it doesn't make it true, alright?
Name one person who's cooler. Silence, I win.
Winston Churchill.
Eh.
Nah, you're right.
But yeah, going back to the remakes thing as well, it's something that I do feel that Nintendo, when they do like enhanced versions, or like they're attempting
Dudo.
fuck you. But when they try to do enhanced versions, they do quite, like, I don't know whether I'd say quite often, but they do have a habit of sometimes missing the mark, where there's no one like definitive version that people would outright say this is the version you should play. And like I saw it a bit with the Luigi's Mansion re-release on the 3DS. It's like they've changed some things, they've made it more accessible, and there's some parts of the game where I think that looks quite nice on the 3DS, but also it's like they've changed the control, and like the original charm from like the GameCube era portrayal of Luigi's gone. So it's like, would I say to someone like, don't bother tracking down a GameCube version, just play this? Probably not.
No,
you know?
it doesn't replace it at all.
Again, like, when you do re-releases, there is always that decision on, is this supposed to be a replacement or an alternative? And that kind of goes back to the Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl conversation we had a little while ago.
Yeah.
Are you expecting fans of the original to want to replay this as an alternate take on it? Or are you expecting this to be the one that people who are interested in playing it for the first time to use as a substitute? And sometimes with Nintendo, it feels like they don't have an answer for that.
Yeah.
And it's also more egregious with Nintendo sometimes because they won't make the original version accessible all that easily.
Yeah.
And like, they're getting better about that now. Like, they've put the original version of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon up on the Switch, even though there was the remake. So it's like, hopefully steering in the right direction there. But that's something that I just think, if you have it, make it accessible. That's what my ideal version here, because
I mean, agreed.
There are arguments to be made about playing both versions of a game that had a remake, and I find it very interesting to analyse the changes that were made. So for me personally, I like having both versions available, and also just in general, sometimes people are more likely to appreciate improvements in a re-release if they've played the original one first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much so. Not quite done with the rainbow theme and the clouds and whatnot just yet. There was a little start to pick up, and then it's time to go punch Bowser with his smug prick face.
I do not like this level at all, because the wing cap is fiddly as it is, but here the platforms you're trying to land on are much smaller than they've ever been before. And yeah, get used to stomping, but even so, when you're stomping, sometimes you have to take advantage of a camera that's not showing you quite where the ground is, so your depth perception can be challenging, I'll say.
So, in conclusion, Rainbow Ride, cool to look at. I wouldn't say it's the best final level in a 3D Mario, not by a long shot.
No, but I suppose in terms of what they were perhaps aiming for, it's the most visually sort of like final level-ish of where they were perhaps at this time, of just going like, you've ascended all the way to the sky, essentially.
And also, I will say, in terms of making you cognizant of 3D space and areas around you that indicate danger, that is a pretty darn good level, because everything around you is danger in that one.
Yeah, you will learn how to maneuver in the 3D space whether you want to or not. But like, I get why it's the final level. It's definitely a spectacle level, and it makes you feel like you've accomplished something by reaching that far.
Makes me feel like a Mario.
But yeah, like, it's a fitting final level visually. It's just maybe a little bit underwhelming when it comes to the gameplay.
And that's fair, but, you know, you can't win them all.
The final area that we'll be going to after this is much more impressive, so I can look past the, like, final actual world being a bit on the limp side, I guess.
Oh, you're just saying that because Daddy Bowser is there.
There are no bold statements in my paradiddle.
Oh, played footsie with the red coin and you got a star?
Look, okay, I'm trying to be careful here. You can just turn a blind eye to the slight little awkward nudges here and there.
Oh my god. That triggered my vertigo, just you so close to the edge.
Well, I mean, like, I get it, but on the other hand, I've told you these are pre-recorded videos where I don't die.
That doesn't matter, Flame, that's not how that works.
And in we go. It's time to punch Bowser in his face for a third time, and that's when it should really stick.
Oh yes.
Now, one thing I do have to say about this level, I will be getting the red coins in one run as I have with the other versions of this, but pay attention to where some of them are, because there's some of these that you really just have to know what you're doing.
Like, this level can be cruel.
We do get the fantastic Bowser music one last time though, so even if it takes you a little while to look around, I'm not too fussed by that.
No, this is a fittingly climactic feeling and looking level.
And I have to say, I am still absolutely baffled that there are people that can play the entirety of Super Mario 64 blindfolded.
For a lot of people, it's their childhood game, and so I understand that they're going to be more familiar with the mechanics that will throw off a pleb like me, but that's still fucking amazing that you people can pull it off, you know?
It's fine if you have the version of the game where Mario doesn't, like, sit down every half hour. Sometimes it's just random. And just, like, pull out a cigarette and just go, like, this job ain't worth it. I should have become, like, a librarian.
Alternatively, the version where your controller stops working 20 minutes in and you realise you've wasted a whole session.
That's both funnier and more accurate. Oh, this one's a bitch.
You will slide off of this if you don't land on it perfectly. Be prepared for that.
Now you choose to make gravity realistic. Damn you, Miyamoto!
Yeah, it was him personally who decided that in this one section you might slip.
And there's like a whole display case dedicated to Miyamoto's deadly speed traps at the Nintendo Museum. Did you see that?
I didn't watch the stream. I saw a few things about it, but like, yeah, I can't remember what I was doing. I think I was working at that point.
Yeah, the last 2 minutes is just Miyamoto like punching someone in a Toad costume.
I choose not to do my own research and take that claim at face value.
Well, I was sort of right there, but also I never noticed the stuff on the pillars, like the pictures.
No, I didn't either.
What it's trying to bait you to do is to hide behind the pillars to avoid the wind, which would be redone in part of the gaming journey many years later, and that's what it reminds me of. But like the very, very subtle wind effect they've got going on, I seem to recall that not being particularly visible on some CRTs, so that might have backfired a little bit.
Oh. Alright, here we go. Yo, check out my lighting, Mario.
We have overlaid a gradient map on my model. It looks wonderful.
Don't give out the trade secrets. Miyamoto will come for us.
That's literally a stock effect in Photoshop.
You think I know how Photoshop works? I need someone to help me make fucking channel thumbnails.
Tom, you have to change your number and paste a picture in.
Whatever. So long, Gay Bowser.
This is the change that he's had in that he can just generate these flame effects all over the environment. It's still not that hard, it's more just fiddly trying to line him up with the bombs.
Yeah, I think honestly that is the sort of toughest bit of the fights is, and also because you've got to obviously spin him fast enough to sort of get the momentum going, it's then sort of, yeah, getting the timing on when you've actually got to do that throw. Especially at this point where, you know, you can't just be sat right at the edge of the arena and then throw.
Damn, Flame. You killed that, mate.
First take!
No, you've really beaten me this time, Mario. I will never appear again. I am retiring. Good day.
I mean, Bowser throwing a tantrum is always hilarious. Like, even just after the second hit, the animation of him stomping his feet and waving his arms around was great.
Keep that control stick smoking.
I think they changed that line to something on the Switch version, didn't they? Something in reference to the stick on the Switch controller?
Yeah, he says keep jerking off those Joy-Cons.
Okay.
I just wanted alliteration, okay? Here we go. You!
So all these years later, this is still holds up as a beautiful ending.
Oh yeah.
It's a very soulful conclusion. We got all 120 stars. You did a great job with all the mapping and whatnot in this one, Flame.
Thank you. Took a lot of resets, so I don't take all the credit for it, but still.
Yeah, Mario had played his part, to be sure.
He's the main star.
Also, can I just point out, I love that you ended with 120 stars and 60 lives.
Should have got 9 more, but yeah.
Come forth, Princess of Yore.
Interesting place to store her, but sure.
I mean, it's the last place you'd look. Where could Peach be? Oh, she's inside a stained glass painting of herself. Alright.
It's like it's got a label on it showing what's inside.
Oh. He's deferential. He really wants that cake.
Mario, the power of the stars is...
Cake's probably gone bad by now, though.
We can make new ones. Unfortunately, the toads that were still in there are now lost to time.
The toads have been starving to death, but they're scared of eating the cake in case they get in trouble.
Well, if you had dealt with cake like I've dealt with cake in the past, that's a 1,000-Year Door reference, by the way, you'd be wary as well. Alright, folks, time for some really cool credits music, where we talk over it. Flame, I'm going to hand over to you first. What's your final say on Super Mario 64, my friend?
Mario 64 is a game that I will always love and appreciate the charm of it. Now, does that mean that in the current day I can look past some of the jank? Not necessarily, but I feel for what Mario 64 is, the time it came out, and the impact it had on the industry, I think it was just... I like it a lot. I think it does what it needs to do. I think it leaves a fantastic impression. The fact that so many people have such love for it all these years later speaks volumes. It's just, like I say, it's a very charming game.
What about you, Rich?
Super Mario 64 is iconic, and it's iconic for a reason. Like, you can see so much of where 3D gaming started here, and while some of it doesn't hold up, a lot of it does. And that's just really cool and really awesome. And it's always good to sort of look back and see where things started. And while I would say that I certainly prefer a lot of the later Mario games, so I much prefer Galaxy and Odyssey and so on, to this game, it's still, you can't deny the impact that it had, and nobody will ever be able to take that away from it.
No, it is a formative game for many, and it has a rightful place in history, because without it, like I mentioned way back at the start, we wouldn't have games like Banjo-Kazooie, probably my favourite 3D platformer of all time. So I must kneel, I must stand, I must use other words that Zoomers these days are just making up on the fly. I still don't know what a fucking skibbity is. Probably will go to my grave not knowing, but Mario 64, you know, it just helps you understand 3D in a way that a lot of video games, even today, still struggle with, in my opinion. They have to do it through tutorials and the like. With Mario 64, there's a lot of doing instead of being told. Obviously, there were signposts and NPCs to help you out, but that was just for people who were just really confused. I would say this is what kickstarted my love of the 3D space in video games, and it is kind of why I prefer 3D Marios. There is just so much more freedom.
Fair.
I think it's also a testament to this game's legacy, how each of the 3D Mario games that have come since this, outside of, like, say, 3D Land and World, which are their own thing, they've all kind of just built on top of this as a foundation.
Yeah.
And you can still see, like, parts of this game's DNA in things like, say, Galaxy and Odyssey. It just shows how right they got it off the bat, the fact that it was able to leave such a good foundation for what came after it.
Yeah, very much.
There's our cake.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for playing my game.
Why does he say for two? I will never know.
I would imagine that that's probably 2 takes stitched together and wasn't done as elegantly as it should have been.
Yeah.
Hello.
But we ain't done yet. Anyone who knows Super Mario 64 will know, once you get 120 stars, there are a couple of things you can do. Number 1, after Flame's done tormenting this Mario who has been trapped in the title screen space.
Look, I held off from doing this at the start because I knew it would be awkward to have a long intro of this.
Yeah.
So let me have my fun now.
They knew this was fun because they put it as a mini-game in one of their Mario parties.
And also in the DS version, they adapted it into like a pencil sketch of Mario that you could just move around with a touchscreen.
Yeah.
Which kind of works as a spiritual successor because it's like, this game's gimmick was that it's 3D now. That game's gimmick is that you can directly interact on the screen. Yes, we're back outside here in the castle and we're gonna make our way around to show off some secrets.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
Once I've had my fun, because I mentioned earlier in the playthrough that the castle itself is great for just getting a feel for the different movements in Mario's arsenal, and the outside section in particular. If you just don't really know what you're doing, you want to get a feel for you doing like your different tricks. This is like a safe area to practice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, we have a cannon here, don't we?
Doesn't seem like the best strategy to have a cannon aimed at the castle, but you do you.
No.
Now, who's this fella here from Mario World?
Yoshi! I love him. He's huge.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose technically it has to be for Mario to be able to ride him. It's just that obviously the Yoshi that we now see tends to be a lot smaller.
He needs a head big enough for Mario to punch him in the back of, but to be serious for a moment, this is such like a cool extra... Yeah, this is the end of the game, but not the end of the fun. So, why don't you go and just have a bunch of lives and whatnot?
I do always like this when developers leave little messages for you once you've beat the game, and the fact that it's done in a way that doesn't really break immersion either, the fact that Yoshi's delivering a letter to you rather than it being too on the nose about it. I think this is a nice little bonus.
Oh yeah, and I also like the fact that if you've obviously got 120 stars, then in the ending you can actually see Yoshi up on the roof to know that you can go up and find him.
Oh.
And also, obviously, in the DS opening, Mario, Luigi and Wario come out of the pipe, but Yoshi's up on the roof. And that's where the game starts.
Well, obviously, you know, he's been pulling petals off flowers.
Well, exactly. And that's just sort of a really fun, cool little nod to what I suppose is arguably one of the first 3D gaming secrets out there.
It's interesting though, this was still the era of like not everyone having internet and whatnot, so when Yoshi jumped off into the waterfall, obviously that spawned a rumour of there being like a way to get inside there.
Of course. Well, I mean, if I recall correctly, in the manual for the DS version, it said that Peach was playable.
Ha!
She wasn't.
That, to be fair, that's probably just more of a typo rather than cut content, like some people might assume, because
Oh yeah.
manuals tend to, like, they're barely a thing these days, but, like, back then it was like, they'd just throw it over to whoever was free to do it at that point.
Oh yeah.
Toad, I've got them all. What? Toad, please. Oh god, he's trapped in time.
It's funny to just not tell him that everything's okay and let him think he's still stuck here.
Like, he sees the princess walking around and is none the wiser.
Yeah, it's like, oh, must be one of Bowser's imposters.
Yeah.
But yes, we have one more bonus to show off in this playthrough. If you remember, during the main game, we had a race against the big penguin in this area. If we go back here, he's been eating good.
Oh man. Did you swallow the other penguin here?
Jesus.
And both children.
Well, you say both children, one of them's not around anymore.
Good point, good point.
But yeah, this plays basically the same as it did last time. It's just a funny little Easter egg they added in that if you come back here after beating everything, he's just put on a few bounds.
I guess I'll wrap up here by saying thank you for watching the playthrough of Super Mario 64. If you have enjoyed this run, please consider becoming a patron of ours on patreon.com/HellfireComms. That really helps keep the channel going, and I'm able to pay Cocoms for their time, pay my own bills and whatnot, and it is essentially the lifeblood of the channel. I don't shill all that much, but I figured since it's the end of a playthrough, you know, I'd put my piece out there. But yeah, this has been yet another Penguin Destruction Tour. I've been Tom64.
I've been the Flameclaw.
And I've been Richie.
And coming up next, we have Sonic 3D Blast for the Sega Saturn, and we also have Sonic Pocket Adventure. So we'll see you next time for those. Bye for now.